all of you who put this together this morning, and to all of you for getting out early this morning and coming down here and listening to what sounds like doom and gloom to some extent, I guess, but unfortunately that's true. I want to take just a couple of minutes and make a few remarks, and then I think probably the best thing would be for us just to open it up for questions, and there may be some things that you want to ask us that maybe we didn't cover, and I'm sure we can try to do that. Let me first also thank Jack Hill. Most of you know Jack is chairman of the Appropriations Committee on the Senate, and he's very deeply involved in the budget. I'm vice chairman of Appropriations on the House, so we're involved in that as well. It was really good to get out of Atlanta and come home, even if it's for a short period of time. I was at the Capitol yesterday afternoon working, and Jack was there too, and we were talking about, well, what time are you going to leave to go home? He said, well, I'm going to leave when we get through this meeting. It's starting at 5. I said, well, we got one at 5 too. So I think he ended up getting home about the time I did last night, about 10 o'clock, so we could come and do this. And then I'm going back this afternoon. I know he's going back early as well. So the 2-week time off that we've taken has not been a vacation. It really has not. I don't believe I've ever seen the activity going on working on the budget during this break that we've had for this past week, and of course we'll continue to do that as well. Good news is we brought you some maps over here, and they're free. You can take one of those, and that may be the best news we've got for you, is to do that. But it's always good to come out here and see everybody. And I want to take just a couple of minutes and share a couple of comments with you about some things that have happened in the House this year that I think are positive. We've had a change in leadership up there. We have a new speaker. The gentleman's name is David Ralston. He's from up in Blue Ridge, Georgia. David had served in the Senate for several years and then was out a few years, and he's come back. He's been in the House, I believe, about 8 years now. I've known David for a long time. He's just a guy that's got a lot of common sense. He's smart. And to me, I told him, I said, you sort of walked in and just kind of put some oil over the water, just kind of calmed things down. And I think I see a new sense of wanting the House and the Senate and the governor's office to work together. And goodness, with the problems we've got now, if we've ever needed cooperation with all these, I think this is certainly the time to do it. So I think that's a real positive thing. And one of the things that he has told us, he said, you know, as far as I'm concerned, everything is on the table that we're looking at to try to address these budget problems that we have. And I think that's good too. There's sort of no sacred cows there. Everything is going to be looked at, and hopefully we can do that in a way that we can get to where we need to be. And he also made a comment to us. He said, you know, sometimes less government is good. And he said, I know that all of you think that the bill that you have is probably the most important bill in the world that's ever been introduced, and it's just got to be passed and all. He said, but you know, sometimes we don't have to pass everything we think we have to pass. So, you know, be thoughtful about what you do. And you know, I think Jack has hit the target there with what he's tried to show you. And I like his show and tell, because that little story about a picture's worth 1,000 words. When you see those lines going down like that, I think you can understand that better. And I think where we are right now in the budget process in Georgia, we're dividing up state government into things that we must do. And then we're dividing up things that we would like to do. And I think what we're going to do is the money that we have, we're going to take care of those things we must do. You must educate, you must have public safety and so forth. Then the things we would like to do, if there's some money to do that, then we can get into that part of it as well. As you remember, we're limited to a 40-day legislative session, 40 days that you actually meet. And that's the reason for this 2-week recess, is to try to get a handle on what's going on with the budget. And then also, I think the governor was wanting to see what the latest numbers were going to look like, because we were all thinking, and fearful I guess, but really realistically, that he was going to lower the revenue estimate again. Well, every time that gets lowered, that just gives you another target to shoot at a lower number down there. And evidently that's probably going to happen, but it hasn't. I don't think he's announced it just yet, but I suspect any day you'll hear something just like what Jack was talking about there. We're not the only ones that are working over this 2 weeks. there are 4 committees in the House that the Speaker wanted to continue to work through this two-week period. Of course, appropriations to work on the budget, Natural Resources Committee dealing with the water issues, transportation is meeting, and they're trying to work out a transportation funding bill. I know you probably all heard something about that. And then, of course, Ways and Means, looking at the tax, that's where all your tax bills go and revenue bills, this sort of thing. What we have tried to do, there's like 7 departments that my group that we work with on the budget, and we've been meeting all this week, and yesterday we had a public meeting from 9 to 1 with them. And each one of them that came in, basically what I tried to tell them, I said, look, guys, it's not a question of if your budget is going to be reduced. Your budget is going to be reduced. Now, we've got to get to the number so we can balance the budget. What I'd like for you to tell us is how we can reduce your budget, where it can be reduced, so that you can still do your core mission and be the least harmful to you than if we just go in and start cutting, more like a surgical cut than cutting with an axe or something like that. And to their credit, the departments have been very helpful in that. They have offered up some things. I think that you'll see a change in state government. I think you'll see some departments consolidated. I think you may see some departments eliminated. This gets back to what I was talking about, what is necessary and things we'd like to do. And Jack mentioned earlier that the governor, in his revenue estimate, had put in, as part of that, what they call the bed tax, the hospital tax. This would be taxing the hospitals on their revenues. Well, I know the hospital here in Candler County is struggling. The hospital in Emmanuel County is struggling, and most of our rural hospitals in this state are struggling. I just don't believe we can afford to put that tax on them. The governor said that if you don't do that, then you can cut the provider fee 16 or 19%. Well, there again, in our area, most of our providers deal a lot with Medicaid. And if you cut that 16 or 19%, that means the hospital, the dentist, the doctor, the pharmacy, the ambulance, everything gets cut by that amount. Well, Medicaid, most of the time you're losing money on Medicaid anyway. And if you cut it another 16% or so, it just compounds that. So there's been a lot of conversation about that. But the problem is that $320 million or whatever it is included in his revenue estimate. So if we don't pass that, then that means that's another hole that's got to be filled in there. We've got a couple of those things like that. One thing that I introduced, a bill dealing with education a little bit, I had heard pretty loud and clear from some folks that they felt like the eSPLOS, Educational Local Option Sales Tax, has been a good tool for a lot of communities to use to help with their capital outlay project. I think y'all have used it right here. I know they've used it in my county and pretty much across this state. And that money right now, it was a constitutional amendment that passed it where you, a voter, would vote on it if you choose to tax yourself, and if you do, what you're going to spend that money for, which to me makes a lot of sense. It gives the ultimate local control of what's going on. But some of the slow growth counties, like in our area, don't necessarily need that money particularly to build a new building. They've got their facilities in pretty good shape. Where it really could be helpful to them is if they were allowed to use that for some maintenance and operation of the facilities that they have.